Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Thursday. Anybody got any tongue twisters? Anybody send any tongue twisters? Am I supposed to do all the work around here?
I forgot that. Sorry.
Well, it's a thing, you know. You know what it does, those tongue twisters? It makes you think of Krishna's pastimes. Go through your,
right.
It makes you go through the memory banks of Krishna's Leela. And
What you got?
if you're new to the show, welcome. You know, I was thinking about how everything that we're doing in Bhakti is pushing us to that shelter of Krishna, trusting our life is in Krishna's hands. And I came across this great story in the Mahabharata yesterday. You know, right? No one could kill Bhishma, and he's fighting with the bad guys. He's the grandfather. He's the Maharaja.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy, and he's loved,
But
and
he's
he loves
fighting on the
Krishna.
bad side.
But he's fighting on the wrong side. Sometimes we get caught up on the wrong side
Politics.
in life too. Yeah, right. So grandfather Bhishma he had a special blessing that no one could kill him, and he would only be able to die by his will. And so no one knew what to do. No one knew what to do. And he was killing everybody. And then Duryodhana challenged him. He said, "Oh, grandfather, everyone knows you're invincible, yet you're playing it easy with the Pandavas, Arjuna and his brothers, because you favor them." And he was sort of like goading Bhishma to like get serious about fighting, and sort
Take
of
out
like
Arjuna.
sarcastically saying, saying he wasn't serious. So Bhishma makes this vow: I'm going to kill Arjuna tomorrow, or I'm going to force Krishna to break his vow of not fighting and pick up weapons. You know, so when everybody heard that vow, and everybody know he likes to live up to his commitments, it became the Pandava camp was really upset. And people were talking about it. And Krishna himself, when he heard that vow and he knew the power of Bhishma, Krishna got upset. And Krishna was worried. And Krishna was worried about his devotee. And he's like, and Krishna couldn't sleep. So he doesn't know what to do. So he went into Arjuna's room, and Arjuna was snoring. And he's like, "Arjuna, wake up. Don't you understand? There's a vow. Grandfather Bhishma, he's no clown. He's dead serious. He took this vow that he's going to kill you tomorrow. Why are you sleeping? Why are you not worried?" And he's saying, "I'm not worried, Krishna, because you're worrying about me. I know you're worrying about me. I know you got my back, Krishna. You're up late at night worrying about me. My life is in your hands. Why should I worry?" You know, it's one of these things that devotees, as they evolve, it starts to take away their anxiety and fear of this world, especially the biggest fear, the fear of public speaking. Just kidding. No, the fear, which is a big fear. No, the fear of death. The fear of death. So this is one beautiful of the byproducts of Krishna Bhakti. We don't do it to become fearless, but it's one of these natural things that we put our life in Krishna's hands. We say, Krishna, whatever you want from me. And it makes our fear go away instead of being hypersensitive to all the things that could go wrong.
You know,
What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
This is what I think. I think that there's an aspect of deep spirituality that can't help but look irresponsible, something like that. You know, like in other words, one actually does have to come to the point. It doesn't mean that you're irresponsible in how you care for your family or for others or financially and things like that. But the yogi is kind of operating. The yogi that's living in this world is kind of operating on two levels. You know, there's the practical side of getting things done, and I'm going to do my best to do things right in life. But in the background, all the time, there's this kind of like complete faith in Krishna, complete faith in God, and the idea that like that Arjuna said, like Arjuna, you know, he's trained and he's ready to go out there and be the best warrior that he can be. But he's saying ultimately everything's in Krishna's hands, so why should I worry about anything, you know? And whatever happens in the battle, you know, whatever may happen. And
perhaps it's a delicate balance of like responsibility and letting go.
Yeah, both are there, right?
Yeah,
both are there. And letting go means letting go of realizing that I can only do so much. Let me do all that I can. Whether it's preparation, yeah.
It's the serenity prayer, right? It's the serenity prayer.
Yeah, say it. What is that again?
Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
yeah.
The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, well, that relates for sure. Yeah.
Sometimes you see people abandoning Eventually, we got to abandon duty and just trust Krishna.
Right.
But in the meantime, we got to be dutiful.
Right. But we can let go of the anxiety right now, if we're Krishna conscious, if we're God conscious, right?
Yeah. And that's a good thing. To be able to let go of the anxiety, the material. There's a lot of anxiety out there, and we can make it more, and social media makes it more prominent in our lives. Who needs it? I've got enough anxiety. And it brings us back to the Frozen. Let it go, let it go. Kids walk around the house singing that song. When I get to like, clean your room, let it go.
They start to preach to
you. They start preaching to me. Dad's too attached. All right, so we're starting a new chapter, man, and it's called "The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vrindavan."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yesterday we were doing the pastimes in Vrindavan up to the Rasa Leela, right?
Yeah, those are the big ones.
Yeah, and you know
they're all big. They're all sweet. It's like a banana. Either side you bite it from, it's sweet.
It's all sweet. But you know, at the end of last year, we did our survey of everyone, and we kind of got feedback, and we wanted to see how we might adjust the show in different ways and so on. What are you laughing about?
Somebody wrote, "Throw that kid of yours in the hundi box." Last week we told about the baby that fell in the hundi box. That's funny. Okay.
So one thing that we're taking everyone's feedback, we said, you know, sometimes we may summarize certain portions of the Bhagavatam as we move through it sequentially, right? And so we're gonna do that today, right, when we get to chapter 3, because chapter 3 again is a long list of Krishna's leelas, but just like one verse each. So rather than read them and discuss them each in depth, we may kind of just summarize them. Is that all right, Raghu?
That's great, man.
Okay. So you know, Krishna, he's living as like you know, a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, you know, with his most intimate associates. But then at a certain point, he goes back to Mathura to kill the king who has imprisoned his parents and to free them, right? And so all these different things are mentioned now by Uddhava, because Vidura asked him to talk about Krishna, and he talks about you know, the early pastimes, and now he's going to talk about the later pastimes up till the disappearance of Krishna and his entire dynasty, the Yadu dynasty. And so, it begins with the killing of Kamsa. He mentions that he kills that king. Great story, right? So much there.
Yeah.
Right. It's the whole description of how Krishna enters into Mathura.
Great story.
Is fascinating, and it builds up to like this kind of like a, I guess, again, the perverted reflection of this is like
Little kid beats up the bully.
No, I was thinking of like these wrestling things that people like to watch and so on, in these wrestling
Who likes
matches.
to watch mixed martial arts? Who likes to watch that?
Yeah, I mean, mixed martial arts is also, but like I think the what are they called? Like
WWF or something like
that. I
that.
don't even know what they call it now, but like the phony wrestling, like the fake wrestling, right? But they bring in all the characters and all like the,
yeah. Well, MMA's got some characters in there too.
Okay.
and Chanura and Mystica were not fake wrestlers. Those guys were serious wrestlers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is the perverted reflection in this world, right? The warped reflection of it. Yeah. But he had to fight an elephant. He had to fight these wrestlers, and eventually he fights. He was set up basically. Kamsa was trying to like invite him for this wrestling match. And he had these like huge, deadly wrestlers, and Krishna beats both of them, kills both of them, and then he goes after Kamsa, who's like sitting on this throne, like kind of watching the whole thing, and he drags him down, and we remember how he killed Kamsa?
He broke his collarbone.
Is that it? I thought he whipped him, or was it the other wrestlers? He kind of whipped him around and kind of centrifugal force.
I don't think that was Kamsa. Kamsa just
was one of the wrestlers.
Beat up.
Okay, just
beat him to blood. Beat him down. Then his wives came and started had to pacify his wives. It was a whole thing. It's
described that he would just kind of drag the body of Kamsa just to kind of prove to everyone that he was gone. He was dead. And then he has that in I think it was sometime last week we discussed where he talked to his parents and he kind of released them. And he apologized to them, I'm sorry I've been gone for so long, and I've left you here like this,
Yeah.
Really, some really sweet rasa there, So in any case,
sort of like the fall of a dictator, the freedom that must feel.
Yeah, it was like that. So he kills Kamsa. It describes that how he studied in the ashram of Sandipani Muni, and then as like the part of the culture that when you learn from a teacher, you're meant to give them some dakshin, some gift donation.
Little gift could be money.
So what he did for his guru Sandipani Muni was he rescued his sons from death. Right, his sons were in the realm of Yamaloka, and somehow Krishna went there and brought them back. And it talks about his kidnapping of Rukmini and marriage to Rukmini, which is I find a very fascinating Leela. Do you as well, Raghu? Not really.
Yes. Well, Rukmini, I'm going through my memory banks here. Yeah. Okay, Rukmini was already an arranged marriage. Now, like arranged marriages, like Americans don't get it, but arranged marriages, I think, are great.
Okay. How do your kids feel about it?
My daughter's bucking the system, but she'll soften up over time. She'll like them. The idea is that Rukmini had an arranged marriage, but she wasn't interested to the person she was going to have to marry. And she was in love with Krishna. She heard about Krishna, so she started writing these love letters to Krishna. Come rescue me. Yeah. And so Krishna came to the... was it to the wedding, or did they have a?
No, what it was
a battle of the kings.
It was the morning of the wedding. So she wrote him a letter. Now she writes. It's mentioned there that she had never seen Krishna. She had only heard of Krishna. But
that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing, right?
We're just hearing about Krishna.
We're just hearing, but she had completely fallen in love with him. And so she wrote him a letter. And now this letter, it's a beautiful letter. It's a poetic letter, but it's a letter that you can read, and it's kind of like the way that I understand is this is the way that we're meant to pray to God, right? It's like, come rescue me, and so she writes to Krishna that, I don't want to be the wife of was it Shishupal? Who's she supposed to? It was Shishupal.
I think it was
right?
Shishupal.
Yeah.
Mara's like,
Mara's confirmed. Mara's Shishupal, yeah. I read that one recently, right?
She's learned.
So she writes this letter, and then she gives it to a Brahmin, and it's snuck out of the kingdom, and it's brought to Krishna. Krishna gets a letter, and he like rides his horse like a great speed to get there in time. She says, if you want to rescue me, this is how you do it. On the morning of the wedding, they bring me to the temple of Durga, right, to the Durga temple, where I'm meant to say some prayers there. And when I'm coming out, you could rescue me right then. But everybody's going to be there. You know, Shishupal's going to be there. My brother's going to be there. All these other warriors are going to be there. You're going to have to do it right, you know, in the midst of all these other warriors. And so Krishna shows up, and he does just that. He grabs Rukmini, puts her on. I think she's driving the chariot, right? And he's firing arrows.
It's a good
right,
it's a good action scene. It's a great
action scene, but it's a beautiful passage with a lot of spiritual depth in there. So when we get to the 10th canto, that day's going to come. You know, we'll go into all these leelas in great depth. So that becomes Krishna's first wife, Rukmini. But then he goes on and he rescues the princess Nagnajati, right? And in order to do that, he had to engage in special, you know, all of these things. Again, they're just like they're reflected.
Don't try to figure them out. Don't try to figure all this out.
Or figure them out this way. You know, killing Kamsa, we see that reflected in you know the wrestling matches and something like that. Rukmini, the rescue of Rukmini, you know, it's reflected in all of the Bollywood movies, right? They're all about like someone having to get married to someone that they don't want to get married to, and
that's every Bollywood movie, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's some true love that they have, that their heart
peppered
is really...
with some incredible dancing.
We know that you like the Bollywood dancing.
It's just good. It's good. It's good for you. It's healthy.
Okay. So he rescues this princess.
It's probably healthier than yoga.
I don't know if I
Yoga's
agree with
pretty
that.
Healthy.
But
Bollywood dancing. Come on.
Okay. So he rescues this princess. Then he's married to Satyabhama, very interesting character, Satyabhama, right?
Satyabhama came. She was the daughter of. Why can't I think of this? Satyabhama. Who's Satyabhama's father?
Jambavan or something? I forget it.
No, that's Jambavati.
Oh yeah, Mara.
Satyabhama. Now I'm torn.
Figure that out.
Oh, come on.
Get right on.
Let's bring it to our Amaya. Bring it to the board. Bring it to our message board. These guys know everything.
Yeah. I haven't read that in so long. I really gotta. You know what? That should be Makeover Monday for me. I gotta reread the Krishna book and get all these details.
Satyajit.
Thank you.
No, wait a second. No.
That's
Satyajit.
You sure?
Indulekha said that.
Yeah,
Indulekha's your sister-in-law?
She's my sister-in-law. Yeah.
Isn't that great that you have like devotee relatives? That's so cool.
It is cool.
None of my relatives are devotees.
You have to work on it. Got
to marry these kids off.
Okay, so in any case,
Satyajit. We got to get to the bottom of this. Satyajit died.
So?
Didn't he? Satyajit was killed. And it was in that pastime, that was the one that Shamantaka jewel. That's when Jambavan gave his daughter to Krishna to marry, Jambavati.
Okay. In any case, Satyabhama, was Krishna's wife. And unlike Rukmini, whose nature was very, I don't know, like soft and like kind of more like submissive, Satyabhama was more like feisty and sassy, right?
She was sassy. She had a sass to her.
Yeah. And so she kind of like said to Krishna, he says, I want, there's this tree in the heavenly planets, the Parijata tree. Oh, I wish I could have that tree. She was kind of like.
But did you hear about let's just break this apart, what you just said. You just skimmed through a very, very interesting piece of information. There's a tree.
Oh.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. Ladies, if you feel like I don't fit into this Bhakti box for women, don't worry. There's a sassy box. That's the Satyabhama lineage. You could be in the Rukmini lineage or the Satyabhama lineage. Yeah. But you were talking about there's a tree from a higher planet. Isn't it an interesting thing? There might be flora on other planets that we don't have here. So there is. They talk about. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, but it's nice to think like that. Where do you get a platypus from? Like platypus, where does that fit in? It's a mammal that lays eggs. What? That's like unheard of. We're trying to put things in categories, and we're trying to like do our best we can, and nothing actually makes sense. Platypuses don't make any sense. They don't fit into any category. They could be from another planet. So there's this tree from another planet called the Parijata tree. Now, some people say it grows in India as well. What do you think about that? I think they just called another tree a Parijata.
What do you mean? Oh, you're saying that the Parijata that they
there are
have here on
Parijata
Earth now
trees
is
in
not
India. Yeah, I don't think it's the real Parijata.
I'm not going to care to speculate about that. Raghunath.
Isn't that great? Kaustubha goes right to see. What I'll do is I'll bring in aliens. It could be, but Kaustubha is like if I don't know from sacred literature from the Shastra, I will not say.
I don't
like
know.
How you catch your tongue.
Yeah,
I'm like making all types of speculation. It's not a real Parijata tree.
Yeah, because they do have that in India. They'll say, "Oh, that's a Parijata tree." But so you're saying, I don't think that's.
I'm saying I don't think so. Okay, so she wanted a tree from the heavenly planets, and Krishna brought it back for her.
He went and brought it, but in order to do it, he had to like fight with Indra and everything like that. It was like because Indra, his wives said, "Hey, he's stealing the tree. Don't let him do that." So a whole nother loving adventure goes on there, right? How because the husband, he wants to do something great for his wife, right? He wants to do something special.
So
he wants to fulfill her special desire, right?
Yeah, special desire. Well, what do you want? A tree from another planet? No problem.
I don't care if I have to fight Indra to get it. I'm going to get it for you. That's the love, right?
What do you want for Valentine's Day?
The rest is. Yeah,
you lay that one on your husband. Bring me back a tree from another planet. Come on.
Right. So Krishna's always doing that. He brought Sandipani Muni's kids back from the realm of death. He brings the Parijata tree. He rescues Rukmini. He's sharing his love this way, in through loving adventure. It's all loving adventure, right? So then he rescues all this whole like thousands of princesses in one shot. That were captured by Narakasura, right?
They were kings or princesses?
They're all princesses.
Princes or princesses.
Yeah. And they were, and he rescued them. So, any case, this whole
list,
a
blur on that one. Okay.
But this whole list of and that's where he has all these thousands of princesses. That's thousands of wives in Dwarka, and it's mentioned that Narada Muni one day, this great sage able to travel around, one day he goes to Dwarka and he goes to all of these homes of Krishna, and he's looking in each one. He's seeing simultaneously Krishna is present with each wife and engaged in different ways.
Sometimes we hear like, oh, there's this king and he's got thousands of wives. Like, who did that? Like Attila the Hun, something like that. But it was like Krishna was actually with each one.
Yeah,
he was with each,
like simultaneously.
How can that be?
And separately. Yeah.
And separately.
And so Narada was wondering at that, as he traveled around. So any case, there's a list, and 10th canto is going to list still more. Then Uddhava mentions to Vidura about Vidura's own relatives who had died at Kurukshetra, right? So when we get to, I think it's text 13 and 14 of the chapter, here, it's text 12 and 13. He says, "Then, O Vidura, the Lord caused all the kings, both the enemies and those on the side of your fighting nephews, the Pandavas, to be killed in the battle of Kurukshetra."
Right? And this is like a tough one to swallow. It's a tough one to read to the kids, because everything's going. You try to educate your kids. Okay, you don't smoke cigarettes, you don't drink booze,
don't kill people.
You don't kill. Try not to kill people. Yeah. You got to say try. But then it gets to this point where the Yadus, Krishna's family, all gets drunk.
Well, we're not at the Yadus yet. So one second.
I'm sorry.
We're on the Kurus. We're on the Kurus.
Right.
We're going to get to the Yadus.
Hold my big doubts.
Okay, hold your doubts.
That's coming up in the next one.
Okay. So what's happening here is Uddhava was telling Vidura, "Hey, Vidura," and then came the time where Krishna, by his own arrangement and becoming the driver of Arjuna's chariot, all of your relatives and so many other thousands and thousands of kings, they died in the battle of Kurukshetra, which is the battle that follows the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita.
That's the war of the great war of the Mahabharata.
Which goes back to the beginning of Mahabharata. Why did this war take place? Why did all these people die? these were all just terrible kings that were burdening the earth, right? And as we see in this day and age, we got horrible leaders that burden the earth in so many ways. So the verse says, all those kings were so great and strong that the earth seemed to shake as they traversed the war field. And then he mentions Duryodhana, right? Duryodhana was bereft of his fortune and duration of life. He had a great life, right?
Yeah, he had a great. He had whatever he wanted. He was a prince.
He had
So he was a real life prince.
But so Duryodhana, but why was he bereft of his fortune and duration of life? Because of the intricacy of ill advice given by Karna, Dushasana, and Shaubala. And Shaubala is Shakuni.
Yeah.
So when he lay on the ground with his followers, his thighs broken, although he was powerful, the Lord was not happy to see the scene. Interesting, right?
Trivia question: who's Shakuni's sister?
Gandhari.
Oh, all right, pretty good.
Right.
I got you there.
Right. Well, it's his uncle, right? So it's not so hard to put that together.
All right.
Uncle Shakuni.
Your brain is like a family tree.
I don't know about that, but so this is interesting because Krishna, he arranged. In one sense, it's all the play of Krishna, right? The earth comes to me, says, "Okay, I'm going to come down with my associates, with the devas. We're going to rid the earth of this burden," right? And that plays out in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and Krishna's there witnessing the whole thing, driving Arjuna's chariot. Duryodhana, who's the cause of the whole thing, is now dead. Now, it says that Krishna didn't feel happy seeing this, but he was actually the one. Well, let's read the purport. It says, the fall of Duryodhana, the leading son of Dhritarashtra, the blind king, was not pleasing to the Lord, wasn't pleasing to Krishna, although he was on the side of Arjuna, who's fighting against him. And it was he, Krishna, who advised Bhima how to break the thighs of Duryodhana while the fight was going on. Remember that?
Yep, that was a good one. Can I tell a story?
It was kind of like the whole battle just kind of stopped for these two to fight, right? Because it's like these are the two of the most powerful warriors, and they're right at the heart of the whole war.
Let me tell the story of that one.
Tell the story.
It's so sweet. So Duryodhana had this special blessing from his mother. Now his mother, interesting lady. She was a very pious lady, considering she's married to such an evil king, Dhritarashtra. But the king was blind. She got an arranged marriage, but the person she was arranged to be married was blind. And she felt, you know what? If my husband's going to be blind, then I'm going to be blind. And she voluntarily wore a blindfold around her eyes for life. Now, something happens when you take on some type of tapas. You get some type of powers.
Is that why you're doing all that fasting?
Yeah. Because I'm learning to levitate, and I'm trying to enter into stone. That's one I'm working on now. Okay. Levitation's not a problem. Entering to stone, that's a hard one. I keep rocking my head right into it. But so she had all these powers. So she knew that Bhima was going to destroy her son. So she told her son, listen, you come into my room completely naked tomorrow morning. Sort of a peculiar request, but
why would my mom ask me to do that?
My mom was just completely naked. So he's like, whatever you say, mother. So he took all of his clothes off, and Krishna, who's omniscient and all-knowing, Krishna walked in. Right before he walked in, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, Krishna, what are you here for?
So Krishna, so it's like Gandhari had a plan to make her son invincible.
Yeah,
but Krishna couldn't allow that.
Krishna couldn't allow it. And so she was going to gaze at him with her eyes, the first time she ever looked at anybody in many, many years. And so Krishna said, what are you doing here? He's like, leave me alone, Krishna. I'm going to see my mother. He goes, you're going to see your mother completely naked. Are you crazy?
What's the matter with you?
She's like, she told me to. She was like, yeah, she didn't mean completely naked. Put on a gumsha, like a little thin towel to wrap around your waist. Mm-hmm. And Duryodhana was like, well, she told me to come in totally naked. She's like, of course she did, but she meant like covered up. And so Duryodhana was like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
He got him mental, right? He messed with his head.
Yeah, why would my mom want to see me naked? That's crazy. And so he burst into the room with this gumsha, and for the first time in God knows how many years, Gandhari, she said, are you here, son? Yes, I am. She lifted up her blindfold and she gazed at his body. And then she saw the Kamsa, the towel. She said, what are you doing? I told you to be completely naked. The potency of my siddhi, my mystical power from wearing this blindfold all these years. I could have made your entire body invincible. Now your entire body won't be able to be slain except this part that's covering with that Kamsa, your thighs. And that is the very thing Bhima vowed to break. I will break the thighs of Duryodhana.
That's right. Because why?
Because, you know, he did one of these things like during the disrobing of Draupadi, he pulled up his dhoti and said, slapped his thigh, said, come on, lady, come sit on my lap. Something like that.
Very
like
crude.
Showed his leg, very crude,
Very
to the pious queen. Just pulled up his leg and give her a little wink.
And so really then,
I'm adding the wink, but he probably winked.
Yeah, it was, whatever he did, it was really crude.
Although some people don't wink. You notice that? It's an American thing. Europeans don't wink. You know what they do? They double blink, like a double. But that mean I'm serious. Europeans there, put it up on the board. Europeans double. If they want to say, hey, yeah, sure, they'll give you a double blink like that. And if you're an American, you're like, what the hell are you doing? I'm not sure if they wink. I know I winked once to your guru, and he chastised me.
You winked
Did
at
I tell you that?
I know he didn't like that.
Like he made a good point, and I winked at him, and he stopped the entire class, looked at me, and goes, never wink.
Why would you
one-eyed? He called me a one-eyed jack.
I can't imagine anyone else would do that.
Well, you
winked at him. What were you thinking?
I was like, it was a good point, and I winked at him. He goes, he stopped the whole class. He said, never wink. One-eyed jack, inauspicious. So maybe it's not an Indian thing.
No, I think. Well, the point is, it's inauspicious to have one eye open and not the other. I think something's just a little creepy about it or something. I can't believe you'd wink at him for making a nice point in a class.
You know,
that
I
is
wink.
like crazy.
I'm a winker.
I've never seen you wink.
Nicole from Germany / Switzerland says she winks, but come on. And Vivi says she can wink also, but she's American, doesn't count.
Got American background.
Every European, I want to hear if you do a double wink or a single wink. Please write it on the board right now.
Okay, but in any case,
anyway,
yeah, let's try to got too far off on the winking tangent. I know it's fun, Raghunath.
It's interesting.
I think you've milked it for about as much as it's worth now. So when before being banished to the forest, Bhima took that vow. I'm going to kill all the sons of the blind king, and that thigh that Duryodhana exposed with my club, I'll smash that thigh.
Smash that thigh.
So in the Battle of Kurukshetra, they're fighting. Kind of everybody stopped to just watch these two fight, and they were swinging their clubs. They're both club warriors, right? They really were good with clubs.
Yeah, because they had the same guru.
Mm-hmm. Who
Their
was that?
Guru was
Mara?
Lord Balaram.
Okay.
Well, Mara knew that one. I just said it because I think she knew it.
Okay.
Lord Balaram was their martial guru, and so. But Duryodhana was more skillful. As strong as Bhima was, Duryodhana was more skillful. So when it came to that final match, and this is another great time because everybody is defeated, practically speaking, on the Kuru side. And Duryodhana is practicing secret pranayam underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And he's living underwater, and his whole body is like completely wrecked. And all the Pandavas circle the pond, and they say, get out of the water. It's time to fight. And so finally he gets out, and Yudhisthira makes a statement that almost seems very foolish. Even Krishna thought it was foolish. He said, okay, Duryodhana, you're hiding from us. Here's the deal. You fight a duel with any one of us, and you can choose the weapon, and whoever wins that, they will be the emperor of the earth.
So even though your army's totally defeated and everything now, we're going to...
Yeah, Krishna's like, why did you say that? Why would you say that? First of all, he's going to pick a club because he's better at the club, and he picks Bhima, of course, who's his arch enemy, and it was a really good fight.
I think he insults everyone like Yudhisthira. You're not on my level. Forget you, Arjuna. You're nothing. The twins. I'm not even talking about them.
The twins. You're like children. I'll take this big beefy Bhima.
Yeah.
So Krishna's.
So let's go back. Let's clarify this one point first. So Gandhari, her whole plan, she had this mystic power to make Duryodhana's body like impenetrable, like just like stone, just couldn't be. But because Krishna, screwed up her plan by saying, "Hey, wrap something around you," when she gazed, that part of his body remained vulnerable. And there's a lesson in that, Raghunath.
Please tell me.
Well, ultimately, God has a plan, and we have our own desires, But
no matter how powerful you are,
even if you have mystic powers,
even if you got mystic powers, even if you're a big controller, you try something and just like, this isn't God's plan.
Yeah, the sooner we learn to try to be perceptive to that, right? Because sometimes we're trying something, we're trying to convince someone, we're trying to change something, we get stuck in that. Just
Gandhari cursed Krishna.
What was the curse?
He said, "You've killed my family. It's because of you, Krishna, that my whole family's dead. All my sons are dead. So I curse that your all your family members will die."
Oh,
and that was
we're going to get to that soon.
That's what we're getting to next. Leaving the Yadu dynasty, the disintegration of the Yadu dynasty.
Okay, so now back to this purport. The fall of Duryodhana, the leading son of Dhritarashtra, the blind king, was not pleasing to the Lord, although he was on the side of Arjuna, and it was he who advised Bhima how to break the thighs of Duryodhana while the fight was going on. So when they were fighting, Bhima just couldn't beat him.
Krishna was saying, "Hit the thighs."
He's like pointing at
his thighs. They're vulnerable.
Yeah. So, and I think that might have even be considered like a little bit
unfair,
right? It's like not playing by the rules, like to hit below the belt, literally.
Right? Oh yeah, you're not supposed to hit the thigh. Can't hit below the belt.
Yeah, and we see many times in the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna tells the Pandavas, whether it's Yudhisthira, Bhima, Arjuna, all of them, to cheat, more or less.
He does, Krishna. Right. And the moral of today's episode is sometimes you gotta cheat.
Yeah. No, but this is the moral of it, is that love is the higher principle, right?
Krishna's love for his devotees. He will bend the rules. He'll bend the rules of material nature. He'll bend the rules of your astrological chart. Right. He'll bend the rules of, making something that makes no material sense make total sense. Krishna is the ultimate, he just favors his devotees. When his devotees in great distress, he will jump through many, many hoops, even change things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, lie, cheat, whatever it takes, because it's a love.
Whatever it takes. He'll pick up weapons when he vows not to pick up weapons. He's higher than even dharma and responsibility.
It's my favorite one, where he asks someone to cheat.
Oh, Yudhisthira, the elephant?
No.
The elephant, Ashvatthama, is dead.
Yeah, no, mine was when he kills Karna, right? Because Krishna was worried that Karna is actually so skilled and deadly, with a bow, right? Even, on the level or even more powerful than Arjuna. And Arjuna has to fight him, right? And Karna was cursed that when he was fighting Arjuna, his chariot wheel would get stuck in the ground, right?
Yeah, when he was in a helpless situation, he would also die.
And he'd become helpless, and he would forget all his mantras. All these curses were against him. And so, when you're fighting someone, they would fight in these chariots. Apparently, like when they're moving in these chariots, they're like incredibly swift, And so if you're fighting someone in a chariot and your own chariot gets stuck, it's like you're at a total disadvantage. It's like you're like a sitting duck, while Arjuna's
like getting a flat tire on the freeway.
Yeah. And so Arjuna has this tremendous advantage. And at that point, Karna, he's trying to pull the wheel out of the ground, he's desperate now. It's like everything's falling apart now, and he's got that wheel in his hand. He's trying to remove it. And he says to Arjuna, you are a great warrior. You have always followed, the law of dharma, right? So don't break from that now, right?
Don't fight me when I got a flat tire here. Don't fight me now.
That's right.
Just wait a second.
Yeah, you
fix
wait
that
a second,
wheel, and then we can fight again.
Exactly. Let me get this wheel out of the ground. Let me get back up here, and then let's fight according to the rules of dharma, and let the best man win. But don't kill me now, right?
And Krishna started saying, right?
Oh, Krishna. Then Krishna speaks up, right?
Ooh. Where was your dharma when Draupadi was disrobed?
You didn't speak up then. Yeah, well, you weren't talking about dharma then. What about that?
Where was dharma then? I forgot about that.
It was another one that he says. I didn't hear you talking about dharma when Abhimanyu was killed.
Where was your dharma when your uncle was cheating the dice game? Where was your dharma then? Forgot about dharma then?
Yeah, said yeah.
So what about the burning of the house of Lac? Where was your dharma then?
I didn't hear you speaking up about dharma that time. Now you're speaking about dharma. Oh yeah.
Talk about dharma? Here's some dharma for you.
Yeah, so he goes through a whole, list of times where Karna could have spoken up for dharma but didn't. And so now, he's stuck there. Now he's speaking about dharma. And so then Krishna, so after going through this whole list of things with great emotion, Krishna's saying this one, that one. He says, Arjuna, shoot him now, right? And then Arjuna kills Karna because it was the only way that he could have killed Karna.
There was another special insight to that story that I heard, that Karna, for all his problems, was so he was known as the most charitable person ever. Like if anybody came to him, he would always give. At any moment, he would drop everything he's doing and just give.
Particularly after he's done with his puja. He did do puja to the sun every day, right? And then anyone approached him.
That's the one Indra disguised as a brahmana came to him and asked for his kavachas and kundalas. Mm-hmm. So there was this other interesting episode I heard from the Mahabharata where in that middle of that fight where he's got the flat tire, his wheel was caught in the mud, Krishna, in the middle of this battlefield, disguised himself as a Brahmin and sort of snuck behind, sidled up to Karna and said, "Hello, I'm a Brahmana and I'm begging." He's like, "Begging? What are you talking about, begging? I'm in the middle of a battle." He goes, well, you're the greatest charitable person in the world. I'm begging from you. He goes, "All right, after the battle, I'll give you whatever you want." "Well, you are known to give whatever we want, whenever we want it, and I want it right now." He says, "You cannot wait for 2 minutes after I slay my foe, Arjuna. No, I want it now." And then he stopped the fight and he said, "O Brahmana, I will give you whatever you desire." And Krishna, very pious. See, when you do good things, you get good results. That's like karma kanda, right? You do good things in this world, you get a good result. So Karna was living in the bank account of so many pious activities that he was unkillable from that as well. He was so charitable. He would give anything to anybody, and you get a lot of pious activities for that. It's a build up, and in your next life, you get some very wonderful thing, and in this life, you get a wonderful thing. So Krishna said, "You're going to give some charity? This is what I want. I want the results of all your pious activities." And at that time, he understood this is Krishna. And he goes, "Yes, you may have them all." Because he could never refuse. And he gave all the results to his pious activities, and boom, Arjuna shot him. That was the end. And when Karna went down, that was like the end of the war, pretty much.
There's lessons in that too, isn't there?
Yeah. It's more sneaky Krishna.
Well, it's more sneaky Krishna. Also that idea of Karna's faith, right? That by doing the right thing, even if it seems like it's not going to bring an immediate result that's pleasing, but by doing the right thing is always the wise thing to do, right? Because at that point, he must have known, okay, I'm finished. But still, because it's the right thing to do, in the long run, the result will be auspicious,
If you haven't read the Mahabharata, please read it.
Please read it.
You'll get all this stuff. I mean, just for the benefit of your life, you'll enjoy life better if you read the Mahabharata. I tell you, I should get like a 10% kickback for every Mahabharata that Krishna Dharma sells because I push this book a lot on people. It's the best read. It's the best read. If you don't like to read like me, you can get the Audible copy available in audio.
Maybe you should just do it because it's the right thing to do and not worry about the kickback.
I'm just joking. I don't get a kickback.
Okay.
Audible. And if you don't like to hear Audible, then get the comic books. You can get the whole comic book collection for $25 from Bart. So, what is it called? Amar Chitra Katha.
Yeah. The fall of Duryodhana, the leading son of Dhritarashtra, was not pleasing to the Lord, although he was on the side of Arjuna, and it was he who advised Bhima how to break the thighs of Duryodhana while the fight was going on. The Lord is constrained to award punishment upon the wrongdoer, and he is not happy to award such punishments because the living entities are originally his parts and parcels. Okay? With me, Roga? Now this gets real interesting. He is harder than the thunderbolt for the wrongdoer and softer than the rose for the faithful. And now here's an interesting point. The wrongdoer is misled. He's talking about Duryodhana here, but we can take this, think of our own lives now. The wrongdoer is misled by bad associates and by ill advice, which is against the established principles of the Lord's order. And thus they become subject to punishment. That's an interesting statement, right? Like, here's Duryodhana, it was mentioning that he was taking advice from Karna, from Shakuni.
Yeah.
And that bad advice led to his undoing, right? Led to his punishment, led to his suffering, ultimately. Now, what advice...
We need good counselors, sir, in this world.
Well, I was thinking definitely that. Like, we need good advisors, for sure. But I was taking it even a step further. I was thinking, like, when we say bad associates or ill advice, I think we can go deeper than that and say, like, what do we associate, just like you're always saying, like in terms of what we consume, like what we watch and what we listen to, like that's association, and that's kind of taking advice too. The kind of the way that heroes are portrayed in the films that we see, and so on. In a way, that's taking association, and its way it's taking advice, like how I should be or how I should act.
That's why, my friend, I don't watch, even though I love them, I don't watch those gangster movies anymore, where like The Godfather, things like that. I don't watch them anymore. And it's not because I don't like violence. I do.
I do like violence.
I do like violence. But it's because I always walk away from those movies like talking like Marlon Brando, or talking like what's his name from The Sopranos. It's true. You take on because the bad guys are sort of like the heroes, and you take on their sort of mood if you look up to them. That's why it's important to have good characters in your life that you can look up to who they are, because then you start to emulate them.
Right. So that's taking association. That's taking advice in a sense, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's taking advice. So Prabhupada goes on. He says again, the wrongdoer is misled by bad associates and by ill advice, which is against the established principles of the Lord's order, and thus they become subject to punishment, bad karma. We get there's results of that. It leads to suffering. The surest path to happiness is to live by the principles laid down by the Lord and not disobey his established laws. Don't enact bad karma. Don't don't do bad things. Live in harmony with nature, in harmony with dharma, right? Which are enacted in the Vedas and the Puranas for the forgetful living entities. So that's where the association, and that's where the advice is meant to be coming from. You can find it in the Puranas, like the Bhagavad Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the Vedas, in Vedic literature, right? Take the association from there.
We are in the process of waking ourselves up from lifetimes of slumber, lifetimes of forgetfulness. Isn't that an amazing concept? Like somehow Veda. I mean, if we were here 150 years ago, we probably were, according to the documentary I watched, Surviving Death.
Episode 6.
Episode 6. Episode 6 is so damn good. I listened to it again.
Mara got caught up in episode 6 now. She's
the fighter pilot. The fighter pilot. Come on.
Mara, was it really that good?
It was good.
The fighter pilot guy, at age 3, he was like convinced he was like burning in a plane. He's having like nightmares at night. The little kid, man, stuck in plane, can't get out. The parents were like, what the hell is going on? And the father was like, what are you talking about? And the father was a total skeptic. And then the kid started mentioning the plane that he was shot down, and he named the name of the ship he was on. The child named the name of the ship.
Was he on a ship or was he on a plane? What are you talking about?
Well, they have aircraft carriers.
Oh, okay.
And they was shot down in Iwo Jima.
Wow.
No, it's uncanny. This stuff's all real. All these crazy things we're talking about, it's all real. Horticulture from other planets, it's real, man. This stuff is real.
What about blindfold
blindfold
powers?
mystical powers? You blindfold yourself, breaking the thighs, healing your children by looking at them with their glance, keeping your gumshoe off when your mother says, look at you nude. That's all real. Bhima fighting Herculean tasks. You know, his mother mated, had a child with a god. All that stuff is real. Ancient aliens giving birth to children. This is all real stuff, the Mahabharata. Sounds fantastic.
I think we have so much to learn from Duryodhana. You know,
Yes.
he's kind of the dark side of all of us, right?
Yeah. Does Duryodhana do dreaded deeds? Huh? That's our tongue twister of yesterday. Does Duryodhana do dreaded deeds?
He does. Indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah. I think of him sitting down in that water, right? Like you're saying, it's like the battle was almost over. He had been told again and again and again and again by wise people to let go and just, you know, allow the Pandavas to, you know, see them as your equals and don't antagonize them. You don't need to fight with them. But he just was, he was controlled, you know, by that lower nature, by that need for prestige and so on.
I was just thinking about, like, how good is Duryodhana's pranayama practice?
Well,
that he could actually go underwater. And for all these people who are like really serious about pranayama, hey, you can be completely against Krishna and completely evil and be a master at pranayama. It's not the goal. It's to bring you bhakti. So here he was, master of pranayama. He could actually slow down his heartbeat enough where he could sit underwater. Doesn't make a difference.
Well, Yogi Charu's seen it, right?
You'd be underwater there.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's real. And
but
so,
what good is it?
But he's sitting, you know, now the results of his horrible choices and his horrible actions have led to destructions of like just thousands and thousands and thousands of dead warriors, all because of him, right? And there's almost none of them left. And then in his childishness, right, he goes into that war. He just wants to hide from the world. And he goes.
Oh, you know what he also said to Bhima or to Yudhisthira at that point? He says, come out and fight. And he gets to Yudhisthira and he goes, you think I'm going to bother myself with fighting you? Yudhisthira, and he started getting all philosophical. Yudhisthira, this temporary world, who cares? We're all going to die anyway. If you like, I will give you this earth. Take it now. It is yours. I renounce it. And Yudhisthira was like,
grapes.
what are you talking about? Renounce the world.
You
can't renounce the world. I took it from you. You have nothing to renounce any longer.
Yeah. He becomes so childish, but like that childishness that is within us all, you know, whether it really manifests in our character and our behavior, or whether it's kind of that inner voice in us speaking to us sometimes, right? You know, but
I like the inner Duryodhana.
That sounds like a book you should write, Raghu.
The inner Duryodhana.
Yeah, the inner Duryodhana.
Doesn't flow great.
It works for me. I like it. Come up with another name for him. But yeah, it's all that manifests his childishness, is wanting to hide from the world. Then then they come and they say, come on out now, you're a warrior, come out and fight. And then he acts childish and says all these, insults them all again, We all got that inner Duryodhana we got to free ourselves of, You
got to feed the inner Yudhisthira.
Exactly.
All right, let's try to wrap this up. We got 2 minutes.
How do you want to wrap it up?
Well, I wanted to talk about the Yadu's disappearing.
That's tomorrow. We need like a whole show to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
So you may as well crank up the music right now, I suppose.
It could be very confusing.
Well, we're gonna try to clear up the confusion about why did the Yadu dynasty, Krishna's own family, all kill each other
and get drunk.
I'm
trying to teach my kids. Trying to teach my kids about like good behavior, and all of a sudden Krishna's family members getting drunk and killing each other with bamboo sticks. Try to figure that one out.
It was all divine play. We'll talk about tomorrow.
What if your teenagers say that? It was just divine play, Dad.
Then they got to be able to lift Govardhan Hill. You say first you lift Govardhan Hill, then you can do it.
You lift Govardhan Hill, then you can have some divine play.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining us. That was great. It's just great hearing these pastimes. Like I feel surcharged to face my day. And I will say, this is what we're doing here. We're trying to create good company. Good company. We come together. If you want to join us on Zoom, you can join this company. We all know each other. Even if some of us have never met each other, we know each other. You just got to go to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Right, Mara, and she will send you magical codes to enter into our chambers. And then you can also add stuff to the message board and distract me from the show. Let's see how much Raghunath can be distracted today with crazy message board statements like throw that kid in the hundi box. That was a good one, Jason.